Bree, what is your goal? What are you striving for? What are you trying to accomplish?
I think my ultimate goal in life is to just be able to be creative in whatever I'm doing as my profession. I think that's what gets me up in the morning. There's lots of moving parts. So I'm kind of just gonna listen to my intuition and my gut, and I do feel like things are put in your lap and opportunities are put in your lap when you're ready for them.
Yeah.
And so just saying yes to the ones that feel good and seeing what happens.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Yen podcast. Today, I am here with Bre Boeh, one of the most skilled people I know, talented people I know. She's a Beaver County native.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast, Bree.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored. This is my first podcast.
I'm honored for you to be here, honestly. Seriously. Thank you so much for taking the time. So I guess to kick it off, Bree, why don't you tell us and tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Okay. So, as Matt said, Bre Boeh, Beaver County creative and entrepreneur. I specialize in murals and graphic design work. I mainly love to work with small businesses and help them bring their marketing to the next level with murals specifically. A lot of times I can take their already established brand and blow it up into a beautiful mural that can be an eye catcher and a great marketing tool. So that's kind of my niche right now, but I enjoy all things creative. So who knows where I'll be in 5 years.
That's awesome. The first time I met you in passing, you didn't even know. Because I was driving through Beaver, I was like, me and Amanda were like, yo, who is that girl? We were like, that mural is so good.
Yes. Was it my octopus one?
It was.
We discussed
actually, yeah.
this, I think.
Yep.
Yes. That was one of my OG murals. It was one of the first big gigs I had. So
That's
I was
awesome.
really excited at the time. Yeah.
So basically, if you drive through Beaver or Beaver County, you see an awesome mural. It was probably by Bree, most likely, more chances than not.
Yes, I kind of have a monopoly over Beaver right now, which I don't really love. I would love to bring in other muralists and artists to come and paint the town with me, because we don't just need my art, we need everyone's for sure.
We love your art though, so
thank you.
If no one else comes, it's all right.
Well, I love Omni Marketing. I discovered you guys via Instagram. I don't remember what business tagged you. I almost think it was the Sense of Eden.
Oh yeah, probably. She was actually, so Debbie, shout out to Debbie Del Monte, Sense of Eden. She was actually our first client, believe it or not, like three and a half years ago. And we actually still work with her, but yeah. Debbie's
and that's so special that you've had that client for that long. Those are some of the best clients for sure that you can keep a relationship going with and continue to work with them.
Yeah. If she's watching this, Debbie, this is your sign to have Bree paint that mural.
So Debbie and I have actually talked before about a mural.
Let's go.
She has a great wall in Bridgewater.
She does have a good wall.
Yes, and she knows it. And so we discussed a mural like last year, I think it was, but the timing just didn't work out, and I wasn't currently in Pittsburgh or Beaver. So that kind of fell through. So I have to reach out to Debbie again. I would love to paint your wall.
Is that how you like approach people? You're like, hey, it's Bree. Can I like paint your wall?
Well, the cool thing is I have cold called. When I lived in Brooklyn, I would go into businesses with my business card and I'd have my Instagram just ready to pull up on my phone.
Nice.
And I would start small and I'd be like, hey, if you're interested in window painting seasonally, and then even further so if you're interested in a mural. And of course, for every 10 businesses, probably 20 that I would go to, of course, I would not hear back.
Yeah.
So then I would kind of play it by ear if they seemed interested from the jump, but they didn't, go with me when I first met them. Then I would go back and bug them a little bit. And those are really what became lucrative for me in Brooklyn.
That's awesome.
But mural wise, it's been really great. It's kind of snowballed for me, and Instagram is my main source of marketing, and people will direct message me and say, hey, I'm interested, and then I like to come check out their space and learn more about them.
That's awesome.
And then hopefully they do a mural with me.
Yeah. So you were just talking about when you were in Brooklyn. Do you want to like dive into that a little bit about how you ventured out of like this area and
Yeah.
went to Brooklyn, and like, what was like, how was that like different than this area?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Definitely very different
Yeah.
in amazing ways and not so amazing ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Brooklyn this is my love letter to Brooklyn. I adore Brooklyn. I loved living there. In college, I interned there. So it was very spur of the moment. It was summer after my sophomore year of college at Penn State. And I had a friend who was in a fraternity, and he has a sister that works in the fashion industry in New York. And I really wanted to intern somewhere that summer. I knew I wanted it to be creative. I didn't know exactly what I wanted it to be. And I learned about her. And so I emailed her and I just asked if they were looking for any interns. And sure enough, they were. So we did a video interview with her and her boss, and they just needed a fashion floor intern, coffee runner.
Yeah.
I kept stock of all of their sample designs, so it was very much busy work, but it was amazing. So that happened probably, I think it was like 1 month into the summer. And so they were like, can you get to New York in 2 weeks? And I was like, what? I had nowhere to live. I had no money to pay for where I was going to live. They were definitely not offering me any sort of money to help me get up there, because it's not a real job. It's just an internship. So my boyfriend at the time, now fiance, his brother.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks. It's recent, in February.
Yo, shout out. Shout out to her fiance.
Yes, Ryan. He's phenomenal. But his brother at the time was living in Brooklyn with his girlfriend. And so he heard about my internship, and God bless Sean and Britt. He texted me and he said, I have a couch. If you want to come stay on our couch, you could pay us. I think they had me pay like $300 in rent or something ridiculous. I was only there for 3 or 6 weeks. So it was quick. And he was like, if you're okay with sleeping on it, you can come stay with us. And I tried to look at some other options, but I mean, no one's beating $300 a month for
in
rent.
Brooklyn,
In Brooklyn, So I was like, all right, Sean, I'm coming to stay on your couch. And it was a 1-bedroom studio apartment. So the couch was in the kitchen. And it was 5 feet long, and I am 5'3".
Nice.
So
that's funny.
Honestly. And Bre, God bless her, she like moved over her clothes in her closet, and she let me take up half of her closet space, and then I had the rest of my clothes under the bed. And it was tight, and they had no AC either. So it was a scorcher that summer.
And it was summer, That's
my
crazy.
gosh. Yeah. So the office was in it was near the Garment District, and it was I would have to go through Times Square every morning to get to the office, and I would just walk out of the subway just dripping. I mean, you almost had to pack 2 sets of clothes.
That's crazy.
But anyway, so that was the origin of me making it to New York. And then awesome. That internship, the creative director there was just really, really cool. Her style very much reflected something that I wanted to aspire to. At some point, she was very like happy-go-lucky, stylish, hippie, Carrie Bradshaw, awesome. All in one. And so she was really inspiring for me, and we have emailed back and forth. I haven't talked to her in a year or two, but she's been a wonderful person to have in my corner.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyways, then the next summer I interned again, and this time it was a little more planned, and I started interviewing a lot earlier in the school year, and I interned with the Estee Lauder companies, and that really just opened the creative world to me. This time it was a graphic design internship, and they did not send me on coffee runs. It was very much, they gave me work to do. I was working with the digital marketing team on their 360 social media campaigns. So a lot of email work. I helped them with some social media stuff. And same thing, the creative director there was just phenomenal. So I worked for not Estee Lauder that brand. Estee Lauder owns like 20 plus different brands.
Gotcha,
So
okay.
I worked
They're
for,
like the parent company.
yes,
Gotcha.
very similar to like Johnson and Johnson.
Yeah, that
or
makes sense.
Procter
They
and
just like
Gamble.
casually own everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah. And there's a lot of beauty brands. And the summer previously, I had interned with ended up being a fast fashion company, which I did not understand that it was fast fashion before I got there. And then while I was interning, I was really turned off by the amount of waste I witnessed every day just in their corporate office, let alone
That's wild.
yes, what was happening in their other warehouses. So I really enjoyed being in the beauty field. That was felt a little bit better and aligned a little bit more with my values. But anyways, so I loved that. I adored it. That was summer of 2019. Yes. And I think so. But anyways, so I graduated, and that was during COVID though. So I had every intention of returning to New York and continuing to work in graphic design. I would have loved to have returned to Estee Lauder. But when COVID hit, it just didn't feel like a safe move to go out to New York City quite yet. And in the meantime, someone asked me to paint a mural, and I was like, I have never done a mural before.
Oh wait, so that's like the beginning of the
Yes.
Wow, that's pretty
That
cool.
was the beginning. Yeah, I really had my heart set on graphic design all through college. I knew I loved to paint. I just thought that kind of had to be a plan B or a hobby or just something that I enjoyed doing. I never thought I could utilize it to make a living. Or I envisioned it maybe someday along the lines when I had developed more of a style and understood more of who I was as an artist.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this yoga studio, it's Miko Yoga. And
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was your first one. That's cool.
Yes, that was my first mural, and
Nice.
the business owner, she's a female entrepreneur, and she was
awesome.
so supportive, and she was like, stop worrying and just put your paintbrush on the wall.
Yeah.
And
That's so cool.
yeah, that was great. And then, kind of kept snowballing from that job. And so I was in Beaver doing mural work for about a year. And in that time, my fiance got a job out in New York, and he ended up moving there. And so our idea was to get me out there eventually. And I looked at jobs out there. I looked at some graphic design stuff, but I was really, really enjoying the mural work.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah. So I was like, why don't I give it a shot and see if I can maintain my business and move out to Brooklyn. And that is how I made it to Brooklyn. And it was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard to maintain business out there for sure. But anyways, have you been to Brooklyn?
I've never actually been to Brooklyn.
I don't think we talked about your New York experience.
Yeah, I would say I've never actually. So I've driven through New York. So I'm originally from Boston. So
Yes.
lived there the first 7 years of my life. Then we moved here, and now I'm in the Beaver County vortex. I don't know if I could leave.
I know, it's a great vortex.
And
I came back. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone, if you were watching this and you're not from this area, if you leave Beaver County, more times than not, usually come back. So it's a vortex. But yeah, so originally I was in Boston. So that's why I asked you about how different Brooklyn was, because I know Boston, even though I was younger when I grew up, or when I was born there, obviously, then moved here. But I still remember the difference of a bigger city compared to small town, like Beaver County, even
Absolutely.
Pittsburgh is not a very big city. I feel like the population's definitely growing out here. I even just even through Beaver, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, there's traffic. And then I'm like, well, there's actually really not compared to an actual city. But I feel like
compared
there's
to Boston.
Yes,
or New
exactly.
York.
Oh yeah. When I first took Amanda to Boston, we went with my family, and everyone was like, we got to leave. We're getting Chinese food, because Boston has the best Chinese food. So
I didn't know that.
it's
Is
so
that what
good.
Boston
I feel like
is
Boston
known
just has the best everything. If you're from Boston, you probably just.
Oh, that's
I feel
a
like,
bold statement, Matt.
I know. I feel like when you're from Boston, you're just like, oh, they have the best this, you have the best that. Or maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just I don't know. Anyway.
No.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Oh my gosh, I'm sure Boston has an amazing food scene.
Yeah.
I have not been to Boston, and it
Oh,
is
you
very
gotta
high
go.
on my list.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, so I was like, my family was like, we got to leave now if we want to get there by 5:30. It was 4:45, and it was only a few miles away. And Amanda's like, why are we leaving? So why are we leaving right now? and we sat in traffic for like an hour. And she was like, "Oh my God, this is terrible. Is it always like this?" And my fiance was like, "Yeah." That's why we left like an hour early to drive like 3 miles.
Oh, it is so brutal.
Yeah.
Yes, traffic is unfortunate. And yeah, we definitely take that for granted in
Yeah. Oh my
Pittsburgh.
gosh,
If
yeah.
you've never lived anywhere outside of Pittsburgh
Yeah.
and you complain about
Yeah.
traffic,
Oh,
I'm
that's
like,
Amanda.
you just
Yeah.
don't know.
That's Amanda all day. She'll be like, "I want to live in the city." And then like we'll drive through like Monaca, and she'll be like, she's a rager. Like as soon as there's like someone in front of her knocking like 10 over the speed limit, she's snapping on them. So I'll be like, "Bro, you could never move to the city." Like you would hate it there.
Oh, I don't know. Her grit when it comes to driving could come
The
handy
grit.
for her
Yeah.
in the city.
Yeah.
She'd be good at it.
True.
though.
Yeah, she's very
she'd be
aggressive. Her family does not like her driving because she's super aggressive, but I like it. But she'll call me just to like rage at someone on the road. I'm just like, "Why are you yelling at me right now?" She's like, "I'm yelling at this guy." I'm like, "All right." Anyway, I could talk about that for a long time, but yeah. So to touch on what you said, I feel like there's definitely benefits to being in a city, but like the benefit to being in a place like Beaver County is like it's so tight knit and it's so much easier to like gain trust. And then like the word of mouth is like you like live or die by like word of mouth around here because like
Yeah, you
everyone knows
do.
everything about everyone basically.
It's so referral based.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Brooklyn, when we lived there, it was just very inconvenient to be a starting artist. Of course, that's the classic story. The starving artist moves to the big city to get big. And I didn't move there to get big, of course. I just wanted to move there and meet other creatives and hopefully get some cool gigs and continue what I was doing. So I definitely got to do that. I just found at the tail end of the pandemic, there's a lot of isolation that happens in a big city like that, where there's so many people, you almost become disposable. And it was hard for me to push myself, go to the coffee shop, make conversation with random strangers.
Yeah.
Since I was working from home, it was really hard for me to branch out and also run my own business at the same time. Like you're experiencing multiple levels of discomfort of trying to be your own businesswoman, paying your bills, and then also putting yourself out there socially. I had trouble handling it. And then I was also just turning down a lot of work in Pittsburgh. And we were kind of at an ultimatum last year. We said, do we want to stay in Brooklyn another year, another 5 years, or do we want to move back to Pittsburgh and be able to buy a house and afford groceries more easily and, all that good stuff. And so, I was thinking, you know what, if we stay in Brooklyn, I'm going to get a 9-to-5 and I'll be more comfortable. And that way I can put myself out there socially, meet creatives, and I don't have to stay in that 9-to-5, but that'll just help me get my feet on the ground so I can be comfortable. But then I said, I have this whole group of clientele back here in Beaver County and Pittsburgh that I'm just turning down. And I'm kind of, why be here when I could live my dream elsewhere? True. So we moved back, and Ryan moved back with me. God bless him again. I appreciate his support, and he is a huge factor in why I'm here today.
That's
absolutely. Awesome. But what was so appealing to me about Pittsburgh as we moved back was just Pittsburgh it's a lot of old money.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't know if you knew that Allegheny County, I think, is the second oldest county in the whole country.
Is it really?
And Beaver County is like, I'm pretty sure in like the top 10.
That's incredible. Yeah. So there's all this old, gorgeous infrastructure and homes, and there's so much beauty in Pittsburgh, and a lot of it got left in the dust when the steel mills closed down in the 70s and the 80s. And so I just see all this beauty in Pittsburgh, and there's so many amazing things about it because the people that did live here before really cared about it. Yeah. And then a lot of them left, of course. And I love that idea of coming back to Pittsburgh, bringing that wealth of culture back to Pittsburgh, because it deserves it just as much as the next city.
Yeah, definitely does.
So that's kind of
that's awesome.
That's how I convinced myself to move back.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
And then when I move back, I meet people like you, Matt, and Amanda, and it makes it all worth it. And I say, this is why I did it because I cherish the relationships that I have with fellow Beaver County creatives, because I think we understand each other on a level that is deeper than most
for sure.
other creatives that you might meet out there. Not that it's not good to meet those creatives as well. But
No, I know what you mean, because it's like it's the minority out here. Like, I feel like you could walk in Walmart and like ask people what a creative is, and people would be like, I don't know. Like
in Pittsburgh's.
Yeah, it's like we're a rare breed. Like, there's so many like talented, skilled people here, but like you were saying, like the general population is just so old around here. And it's like when we started Omni, like there are a lot of people that are like, I don't believe in social media. I was like, well,
or they've never used a phone, or the internet,
exactly.
and you're like, what? So wait, listen to this. I believe it's a Mark Twain quote that someone just told me.
Okay.
He said, if the world is ever ending, I'm gonna go to Pittsburgh because they're 10 years behind anyways.
That's hilarious. I've never heard that quote, but I say that all the time, that we're 5 to 10 years behind everyone else. It's crazy.
I don't know if that was Mark Twain or not, but it is a
We'll
quote
say it
out
was.
there.
We'll say it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We won't fact check it. It's honestly crazy though. And like you said, it's important that, like, not saying we have to stay here, but like I think we're a great, I don't know, it's weird saying it about myself, so I'll just say it about you, but I feel like it's a great like benefit having you in this area, because like if Bre Boeh isn't here painting murals, and then what?
Or
no
Matt
one
and
is.
Amanda with Omni Creative.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, but and it's like it was starting out, it was tough, like explaining to people why social media, because even 3.5 years ago, Beaver County and this general area was so behind already. And it's like, how do I explain to this 50-year-old, 55-year-old person that social media isn't a theory, but like it's actually the best way to grow currently?
Oh my
like,
gosh.
it's not like, I've told people, like people have literally said to me, I don't believe in social media. You have to prove it to me. I'm like, well, there's nothing really to prove. Like, it's a literal fact. Like that's like the best way and fastest way to grow your business. And it's not about speed, but it's about doing what's necessary to grow your business. Unless, I mean, there's a lot of businesses around here too that they don't necessarily, like, we found out kind of quick, like, because we're like when we started, we're like 24 and 23 and we're like excited. We're like branding, marketing, social media. And then these people are just like, I don't care. Like, like I'm happy with like where I'm at. There's a lot of people around here that don't necessarily care to grow too much more. So that's where over the years we were like, how to like categorize, okay, like maybe this isn't like the right person for us to work with. And like, that's okay. And like, it's not like they don't need to grow if they don't want to. Like a lot of people are content with like where they're at. So like it was a big learning curve to be like, oh, okay. Because at first we were like, marketing, every business needs it. And then we find out, oh, okay, well, every business needs it, but not every business wants it. So like kind of categorizing the different people that we're talking to, and not trying to like hard sell. Like I'm not a big hard seller in general. I'm like, this is what we can bring to the table. Like kind of it is what it is. But at the beginning we were trying to like, you know how it is. Like you're trying to make money, like especially me and Amanda, we didn't have a backup. So we're just like, this is it. We need to get business. So we work with clients that were like not bad clients, but just like, I don't know, probably clients we wouldn't take on now. If that makes sense.
There is something to be said for the early client. Of an
exactly.
entrepreneur.
Yes, I know. Cause you're like, oh, I'll do this logo for $50. And it's like, okay. And then, that's why the prices go up really fast.
Well, it is really cool if you do explain it to the right client. That's it. I don't want to call them old because 50 is not old. It's old
exactly.
To us. It's old to us. I'm sorry, Mom. It's always like, why? I'm not. But for the middle age, that are not focused on social media and that type of marketing, you guys can offer them a whole second chance and a whole new range of an audience that they could have never dreamed of meeting. So it's a really, really cool thing that you guys can offer them. And I think it's also really encouraging for other people from Beaver County and Pittsburgh that have businesses and they don't know where to start. And you guys can come in and give them a polished look that they could have never achieved if you weren't here in Beaver to give that to them. You know?
No, definitely.
So that's really cool. I also think there's something to be said for, I always feel so much stress, like, oh, social media. Okay, I need to like be in front of my audience. The more followers I have, the more potential clients I have. And so that was something that I was really worried about when I first started. And then I've started to really lean into engaging with my current audience. And there's so much, you don't have to have thousands of followers to have a completely booked calendar of work.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
It's absolutely quality over quantity when it comes to a follower.
Oh, 100%. If
that person is following you for the wrong reasons, they're never going to be your client.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like really leaning into those people that are already supporting me has been so beneficial and eye-opening for me, and taken off the stress of worrying about just my reach.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, this is like, besides like a business point. So my niece, she's like 16 and like she was on, her and her friend, they were at, so my sister just had a wedding. We were there like poolside, and they're talking about like buying followers. And I was like, I don't know if she'll ever watch this, but shout out to you, Grace. I was like, Grace, I was like, would you rather 10,000 fake followers or 100 real ones?
Yes.
And they both said 10,000 fake ones. And I was like,
no.
Yeah. And I was like, but why?
Right.
Because like, it's the same thing as like, would you rather have 10 fake friends or one real friend? And at the end, the benefit isn't in the numbers. Like, it's behind, like what you said, it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. And like in business, one person, like networking, one person can completely change your business and your life. Absolutely. So it's like, we look at like social media because we see like something that's like 10 million people viewed this and like 5 people viewed mine, but like those views are actually like real people.
Right.
And it's like a lot of people like complain like, oh, my stuff's just not doing good. But it's like, if just like the thing I've been like saying in my head, it's like pretend like there's someone behind the camera instead of just a viewer, because there actually is a real person behind the camera. Yeah. So it's like, if you like, I was talking to Amanda about this a couple of weeks ago. It's like social media is free, but it's not free, because in order to use it, it's like pretend like you're stamping, like it's a time card. So someone goes onto social media and they're giving up their time, which is the most valuable asset in a person's life, because without time, you're dead. So they've already sold their time. So what you're trying to get is not their time, but their attention, because they already sold their time. It already got sold to Meta, whoever it is. Now you're fighting for the attention. And the best way to get their attention is to not just solely do it based on like to get likes, actually give someone that's going to provide value to them. Like make content with the intent to actually like make someone's life or their day better.
Make it worth their time.
Yes, make it worth their time. Make it worth their attention. It's like today, like you're giving me your time and your attention. Yeah. So it's like, I don't want to disappoint, and like I want to provide value to you, where it's like, I feel like for a lot of people on social media, we don't think that way. It's like, how can I get a like from Bree? How can I get a follow from Bree? How can I get a share from Bree? Rather than like, how can I give her value? And like in turn, it just like comes to you. Like I feel like it's almost like a natural law, and like you don't give to get, you just give to give, and like it always does come back to you. And like it's hard separating, like I'm just gonna get, like I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling now, but it's like just give and like don't expect anything back. Yes. And like if you give to 10 people, the chances are like one person's gonna give back to you. If that makes sense.
That was so well said. I could not say it any better.
Thank you. That is, Bree's my hype girl, and Sid is out here filming us today, and she told us that we got to start. Fixer Upper Creative Edition. Bree said she's gonna smash up her own tiles, make mosaics.
I am. I'm gonna make my own mosaics.
I'd be there for it. That'd be pretty dope. Not gonna lie.
I know. I would love to have a mosaic business someday. But
that'd be sweet.
I would love to have a lot of businesses someday. Yeah. So
I know, me too.
The curse of the creative, right? And the entrepreneur.
So, Bree.
Yes.
What is your goal? What are you striving for? What are you trying to accomplish?
I think my ultimate goal in life is to just be able to be creative in whatever I'm doing as my profession. I think that's what gets me up in the morning. And also at the same time, maintaining the balance of the things that I value. So my family, my fiance, I love physical activity, yoga. It's just being able to balance all my pillars, and do that consistently throughout my lifetime. But more specifically in the entrepreneurship realm, I think the next 5 years, I really want to focus on honing in on my craft of mural work and really making that my main thing, and just hitting the financial goals that I want to hit with it and gain some of the clients that I want to gain with it. I would like to move into the residential space a little bit more and do some things that are more interior design oriented and really are thoughtful of the spaces that they're in. And eventually 5 to 10 year projection, I would love to get more into the interior design space. I'm super interested in all of that. However, I also do have my toes in the wedding space as well. I do live illustrations and wedding portraits as kind of my side hustle to my mural work.
Nice.
And I will also make like stationary wedding invites for my friends. I really enjoy doing that. That's kind of where I started when I was younger. That was one of my favorite things to do. I made cards, birthday cards, any type of occasion cards for all of my family. That was my thing. That's cool. And so I get to see that coming full circle someday, maybe. Yeah. I love doing that now, but from a graphic design viewpoint. So I don't know. There's lots of moving parts. So I'm kind of just going to listen to my intuition and my gut. And I do feel like things are put in your lap and opportunities are put in your lap when you're ready for them. Yeah. And so just saying yes to the ones that feel good and seeing what happens. What about you, Matt? We definitely talked about this before, but I love hearing the answer.
I feel like I have so many different goals, and like I want to grow Omni to be something where it's not just like me and Amanda doing it. Like right now we have like a small team, but like eventually grow that team into an even bigger team where I'm able to like really focus on like the growth portion. Me and Amanda, we actually just had like our like meeting. It sounds weird because like we're married, but like we have like meetings and we're like, what are our goals? Like, what are we trying to do? And
that's
like
so important.
Yeah. And honestly, our goal, I feel like my goals fluctuate a little bit, but the end goal kind of remains the same of what I want to do. And like, just truly like grow Omni to like a big place and then be able to like, I don't know. It sounds weird, but like, I like just like training and like teaching people how to do stuff. Does that make sense? Like, absolutely. I really love like that realm of it. And like, so I'd say I don't have like an exact 5 to 10 year goal for that, but eventually I want to be like, I want to just be like running the business and able to also like work on like the growth aspect of like the people in it and also on Omni in general.
Yeah. I have noticed that in just the couple times that we have met, and you really utilize people that you see their talent maybe earlier than they see their talent, like Sid behind the camera here. I think that's really cool. It's so important to have a mentor as a creative, or just someone that you can look up to and ask questions, and for you to be that for not just one person but multiple. I mean, you change their lives. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much. Really I appreciate cool that
aspect. Yes. Yes. Do you ever? Oh, this might be off topic.
I love that you're interviewing me. I love this.
Oh, sorry.
No. I want you to interview me.
Good.
No, yeah.
Good. How is it working with your significant other on in your career and then back at home raising your child? How has that been?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I absolutely love working with Amanda, and Amanda, she just left the room, but she's tried to quit on me so many times. And I'm like, you're not allowed to quit.
That's so good. Yeah, you need that person. Ryan is that for me, even though we don't work together. Yeah. He is that person when I'm like, I'm quitting. This is just, he's like, no. Yeah. Yes.
And Amanda's so funny too, because like she'll say that and she'll be like crying. She's like, I'm done. Like, and I'll be like I encourage her not to quit, even though like I know she wouldn't anyway, because she like loves it just as much as me. And like on the day to day, I probably drive her more crazy than she doesn't really drive me crazy, to be honest. Like I'll be like, just tell me what you want. Like, I'm like, just be open and honest. And like, I don't know. That's all I really care about. And she always is for the most, especially like, Amanda, Amanda's my biggest fan and my biggest critic, which that's how I know she loves me. Cause like, I'll be like, yo, look at this video I just put together. I'm like super proud of it. Like 3 seconds in, she was like, you should change the title. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, just say I did good. And
isn't that so hard too? You probably spent 6 hours on it and she's like,
Yeah, exactly.
Because Ryan does the same thing, but it's those are the people you trust to tell you the truth.
100%.
You need those people in your corner.
And I would never change that about her. Like, it's so like, what good is it if people aren't like, that's how I know that she like truly cares. Like she wants me to be the best that I can be. And like Omni, and like my life wouldn't be the same without Amanda.
Yeah, so, that's your second child.
Yeah.
Omni.
It really is. Like, and it's tough. And Amanda has really, I'm definitely gonna have her on this podcast at some point because she has so much to like add, like just in general, but like watching the struggle of her having almost like, she feels like she has to choose between motherhood or business, and like she does way better of a job than she realizes to like balance the both of them.
Her so much for that.
Yeah,
because I'm not a mother yet, but that is something constantly in the back of my head because I'd love to be a mother. Yeah, and it's just watching Amanda be able to pursue her entrepreneurial dream and also be a mother at the same time is so encouraging.
Yeah, I know. And she doesn't even realize that. I try to tell her all the time, like, how good she's doing. And like, I feel like if when she like backs up and like, she's like, okay, I'm doing a pretty good job. But in the moment, it's definitely tough. So I guess the thing that we navigate that's different from like a normal business owner is like a lot of the I don't know how to word this. Like, there's also a lot of like personal decisions are almost tied up with business decisions sometimes. And I feel like we've done a good job recently kind of like separating the two so that we're not like talking about business like 24/7. But at the end of the day too, we like love it. So it's like not too much of a big deal if we are talking about business like 8:00 at night. Do you know what I mean? Because we're like, this is like what we want to talk about.
No, because that would be really hard if one of you needed to have the off switch. And then that might be a point of contention at some point. Yeah. It's also being an entrepreneur and putting in those outrageous hours. It's, I'm sure, really nice to have someone that's understanding of that. Definitely. And you guys are both putting in those types of hours and you just get it. There's that mutual understanding of the type of time and effort that needs to go into it. Yeah, for sure. Especially because like when we have like, if I have a bad day, like if something, I don't know, we're not perfect, so things go wrong. And like sometimes clients, like we haven't really had a ton of instances where like someone's like mad, but we're human. So it's like, if I have a bad day, Amanda probably is having a bad day, or she's having a bad day, I'm probably having a bad day, because we're still such a small team. It's like we take on the brunt of everything that like goes on. Even when we have a big team, like at the end of the day, you're the owner. Everything that went wrong is your fault. It's like you had to take on the blame for everything, because I can't remember who said it, but it stuck with me. I don't know if it was Alex Hormozy or who it was, but basically, if you blame someone else or blame something else, you're giving up control of the situation. So it's like, if you just take the blame of everything, then you're in the power to be able to change the outcome. Yes. Or like be able to change it from whatever, like development, like a worse development or whatever. It's like, just take the blame and then make it better. Especially with clients. I feel like if the client sees that you get mad, it doesn't like, they're like, oh, okay, he's mad. Like he cares. Like, yeah. Like as long as I feel like at the end of the day, people are people. Doesn't matter how long you've been in business, how much money you have or little money you have. It's like at the end of the day, we all kind of have like the same principles. And like, if someone sees you get upset over a mistake, they give you grace. They're like, okay, like he's going to make it right. Like he actually cares. Like he's not just like screwing me over kind of thing. Yeah. He cares about me and my business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a hard lesson to learn, to take responsibility for not just some things that happen to you, but everything. Yeah, literally. Yeah, it's a crazy, like I feel like if I was in a business and I heard someone say that, I'd be like, what? Like that doesn't even make sense. But I think back to, I had a moving company like before and like during COVID. A moving company?
Yeah. Cool. So we had this moving company and we were actually doing really well. We were going from like here to like California, Florida, Michigan. We were like all over the country.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But long story short, we ended that because it was going really well. We kind of had to make a decision. Do we want to like pursue this or not? And we decided not to, because the moving industry is brutal.
You're also both way too talented to be movers.
Thank you. Yeah. But I remember one time a client called like screaming so mad. And my business partner at the time, Isaiah, he sent me a picture and he was like, bro, he was like, she's mad about this like entertainment center. And literally like the back of it, something like small chip, it was like underneath the foot of it.
Oh my god.
And she's like making this big deal. And I'm like, where did you get it? she's like, Amazon. I was like, how much did it cost? And it was like $130. I was like, okay, send me the link. I'll buy you a new one. And she's like, just like, oh, okay. I was like, okay. And then I bought her. So I purchased on Amazon and shipped it to her new address. And she left us like a 5-star review.
That was great customer service.
Yeah. It's just like at the end of the day, it's like, am I going to lose sleep over $130? No. It's like that's going to make all the difference for the customer. Is like, even if they're like, in my opinion, looking for the outside, I think she was crazy for that. Like it was not it was like not even necessarily like a break. And I don't even know if it was like that prior to us moving it, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It's like, just make it right. Even if they're in the wrong, just make it right.
Yes.
And like, usually it always pays off.
Yes. Yes. I totally agree. Just really caring about what your client says. I always try to think too, I'm just trying to think of where the client is coming from. Or
exactly.
Maybe that woman had a really terrible day and that was like number 10 on her list and it just
exactly.
Which is hard. That's really hard. Earlier you had said that Amanda a lot of times feels like she wants to quit, which is so integral, I think, to every entrepreneur's journey. Honestly, probably everybody's journey with life. But specifically with entrepreneurship. And I feel like success in itself is just a series of failure after failure after failure, all put together, and you just get better after each failure.
Yeah.
And eventually you achieve what your definition might be of success, which is a whole nother thing too. Everyone's definition of success.
Yeah.
But I feel like when you fail as well, at least I've experienced that I am really, really, really mean to myself, or at least I used to be. And so whenever I would mess up with a client, I'd be like, oh my God, that was so stupid. You're such an idiot, Bree. And I realized, oh my gosh, I need to talk to myself like I am my friend. Or if I were talking to my significant other or my mom, how would I would never say that to her or Ryan. Exactly. And so starting to be kind to myself so that I could then fix my mistake and move on from it. If I could spend a whole week dwelling on a mistake and lose time becoming better. So I think that is just a really important part of entrepreneurship, is learning how to bounce back from your failures. The faster your bounce rate is, then the sooner you can move on to become better and better and better.
Yeah. And usually you always suck before you become the greatest.
Yes.
So just like, I know it's very cliche to bring up like someone like Michael Jordan, but his first shot of a basketball probably missed it. So gradually he just kept getting better and better the more work he put in day after day. And it's not like an overnight success. And like, doesn't matter how much skill that you're born with or how much talent. I think the people that put the heart, like the most work in, are the people that become the greatest of all time. Like, absolutely. Like,
the Michael Jordan has experienced possibly more failures in his career than most people. To reach the level of success that he has, you have to fail so often.
Yeah, exactly. And Kobe Bryant used to have like a crazy like workout regime where I think he worked out like 4 times a day or something. I don't know. Yes. And he said he had to work that hard because people were twice as good as him, or 3 times or 4 times as good as him. So he had to put in 2 to 4 times more work than everyone else was just to get to their level. And then of course, Kobe, in my opinion, one of the greatest of all time, exceeded just about everyone because of all the work that he put in. It wasn't that he was just born the greatest or one of the greatest. It's like, it was the repetition day after day, hour after hour, minute after minute of him putting the work in. And it's the same thing with anything that you do in life. It's like, it's all about what you put into it is what you get out of it, like the old saying goes. And I like wholeheartedly believe that.
I totally agree. Have you ever heard of the 10,000 hours?
Yeah, 10,000. It takes 10,000 hours to become like a master at something.
Yes, because I always think of the Beatles. The Beatles performed. They were a cover band, I think, in London. I could have this all wrong, but I know that they had a period of time that was their 10,000 hours, and they were just doing shows like Wednesday through Sunday night. At dive bars for a year, 2 years,
It's
maybe
wild.
longer. And then that's when they just became so good at their craft. And I also think a lot of times when you get really good at your craft, that's when you can visualize something in your brain that is to the level of taste or to the level of artistry that you want to achieve, and you can achieve it. When you're first starting out, your taste advances way faster than your skill set, and so I'm constantly looking at people's work and I'm just like, this is so incredible, why can't I spit this on something that is of this caliber on paper too? Why? And it's really just the time. You have to put in the time to learn how to spit something like that out. That person took so much time to get there to be able to create something like that.
For sure.
So that's such a good reminder. And that goes back to not being hard on yourself. If you create crap, a lot of times I create crap too that I solely believe is crap. And then like a year later, I look back on it and I'm like, that is absolutely not crap. That was beautiful. And I was just so hard on myself. And sometimes you're so in it too. You're so into your own work and your own bubble that it's really hard to take a step back and look at your work as a whole and where it stands and how far you've come. It's a hard skill.
100%.
It is important. I also find that I put a lot of stress on myself to be original. And my dad always says, don't be a sheep, don't be a sheep, don't be a sheep. However, I feel like you have to be realistic with yourself and be like, there's nothing new under the sun. So you're constantly, like, you're a sponge. You're just soaking in information, artwork from creators all around you. And I feel like the originality sometimes comes from when you take all of those people that you love and their work and put your own twist on it. And then put it into the world. But how do you find ways to stay original in your work?
So it's
impossible.
It's impossible. There's kind of like two sides to that question. Like, one is like, especially when you're working with business owners and clients, they kind of have their own specific vision. So at the end of the day, you might create something like, say, a logo. Say you create a logo for them and then they want different altercations, or if it's graphic design, same thing, altercations. And then at the end, it doesn't really look like something that you would have wanted to create. Like, there's been a lot of things that I've created for someone and I'm like, I don't necessarily like that, but that's what they like. So like, that's what makes it great. You know what I mean? Because like, there's been many times I said that to Amanda. It's like, it doesn't matter if you like that. That's what the client wants. Like, you know what I mean? But, and then on the other end of it, being able to put our own twist on things, I guess, is the way that we could put our creative touch to it as well. And like, a lot of the first drafts I do are mainly, I guess I would say mainly my vision. And then after that draft is when I make the revisions and make the altercations to make it look more like what the client wants it to look like, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I have found that some of my best work comes from when my client puts me in a box and says, I need XYZ. And then you take that and also end up putting your own twist on it in the end. But it's like when you have a fridge with only 3 ingredients in it and you have to make dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
But you come up with something crazy and delicious and something you probably would have never created before if you had more ingredients in the fridge.
That's a fact. Especially when you're young and struggling. You got to do that a lot. We do that a lot. Groceries are expensive, man. You got to make use of what you got.
Yeah, you really do. You really do. I think that's another thing. I mean, we talked about like you purchasing equipment for this podcast. And so I feel like when you're entering a profession, a lot of times there is the best type of equipment for what you want to do, whether you're a videographer or an artist or a photographer. And for videographers and photographers specifically, it's super important. But I also feel like sometimes I would personally kind of deter myself from doing my best work because I thought I didn't have the right tool for it. And I think that's another lesson, to just be creative and think of different ways to get around your limitations.
Yeah.
And that isn't what's holding you back from creating your best work. It's
100%.
It's you.
Yeah.
It's not your equipment. A lot of times it's you.
Yeah.
Except for videography and photography.
Yeah.
Like I
I mean, there's a lot
I
of people.
strongly believe you
Yeah.
need good equipment
Yeah,
to
definitely.
make good quality stuff.
Yeah.
That's part of the art of it, is choosing that equipment and knowing
sure.
when to use it, where, and how. So
Yeah, exactly. No, I
I'm
agree.
guessing.
No, yeah. I mean, I definitely agree. I always try to like, a lot of people kind of work up to certain products or whatever, and I'm like usually like, what's the best thing I can buy, and then like just figure out a way how we can purchase that from the get-go, so we
Yeah.
can just create the quality product at the beginning rather than like trying to have to like work your way up to it. And like you can still make good, like everyone has an iPhone or like some type of phone
Yeah.
that can take video now. Like there's people on Instagram that are influencers that they're like iPhone videographers or iPhone photographers, and like you could still, like, we're blessed to live in like 2024 where you can take a really good video or take a really good photo with like just the phone that's like in your pocket. So it's like, I don't know.
That's
definitely.
true.
Yeah, definitely blessed to be.
Accessibility.
Yeah. We almost everyone has accessibility in this country, at least, to like produce some type of decent product when it comes to that sense. But I wanted to ask you, so what are some of your biggest inspirations, like an
Yes.
artist?
So I find that the people I'm really drawn to share a lot of who they are. I think in 2024 specifically, and something that historically we love about artists is their personality.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of content out there. There's a lot of artwork. And so I find that the content creators that share not just their work, but also who they are, and maybe it's their family, maybe they're a stay-at-home mom, maybe they also really like fashion. Or they like teaching. I really like someone that you can see lots of facets of their life, and they're not just one-dimensional, and they don't just spit out artwork. I really like
I know what you
seeing
mean.
the human behind it. So
Yeah.
like Van Gogh was not famous until after he died, and I feel like, and Frida Kahlo is another great example. She's someone that I have loved from the jump. That her personality was so unique, and to tie it to her artwork made it even more special.
Yeah.
So, I love Frida. She was one of my early inspirations, and I really love how she takes the feminine role and switches it up, and I am nowhere near as uninhibited as she is. But I do feel like as a female in more of like a contracting space, like I'm doing mural work, so I'm in Sherwin-Williams and Lowe's,
Yeah.
and like I know where all the sections are. And
Yeah.
that feels really weird, and I'm typically the only girl, and most of the time it's all men. So I feel like a little bit of me is a little bit Frida esque in a way. But I really, really look up to she's a podcaster, Jenna Kutcher. And she started out as a photographer and then developed into a podcaster. And now she does a lot of online teaching and what's the word for, they have like conferences where and it's online.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they have
can't-
like master classes.
Masterminds. That's what, yes. She's really into masterminds. I've never done one of hers before, but she is someone who shares lots of facets of her life, is
Nice.
really good natured, and also super talented. So I love listening to her podcast. I really look up to her. I'm very inspired by her and the way that she helps people. So that brings me to gatekeeping, which is something that she does not do at all. And so I would love anybody who slides into my DMs. I will hop on a phone with you. If you have any questions about mural work, I want to share as much as I can, because I remember just starting out and just pouring into Google, being so confused about what to do, where to start. It's so overwhelming. So that is something that I think Jenna Kutcher embodies really well, is not gatekeeping and sharing, just like you are, with whoever wants to listen, how to get to where she got and where you are. So that's really admirable. But what
Thank
about you?
So I would say Friend, which is spelled Friend.
Yes.
I don't even know their actual names, but they're an account on Instagram, and like photography wise, I absolutely love their style. And like, I just think it's like super cool. It's
What
like,
is the content that they?
so it's super like moody, and they do a lot of like food photography.
Oh, okay.
Which is like super cool. Like they do stuff like for Taco Bell and stuff. And it's cool because we started following them when they had like, I think they only had like 10,000 followers or whatever, but now they're almost at like 100,000. Like they blew up because their stuff is just like such high quality, and they're from Australia. And then Jordy Coalitic, I love his stuff. He's also a photographer. He got voted like one of the top influencers of the year. I don't know if it was last year or a couple years ago. But his stuff is just like kind of like similar, like very moody, but it's more like on the end of like, he's always capturing like people and like their emotions, and like he'll do like crazy stuff where like some girl will be like sitting at a tree reading a book, and then on the bottom half of the picture is like a scene where she's like still there reading, but like the scene is going on around her. So I feel like things like that are like really cool. I really look up to them as photographers, videographers. I feel like there's not like a specific person, but like I feel like super cool stuff always pops up on my for you page. So like I'll just follow people and like be like, their stuff's super cool.
Yeah.
And as far as like videographer that people do know in like a different realm of like movies is like Jordan Peele. Anything he does, I feel like is like always really cool. Like he always takes like the unorthodox, like unconventional like look at things. Like I feel like scenes in his movies like just like make you feel a certain way, like almost like I don't really know how to explain it. I think I was telling you before this podcast, like I always like doing like the drone shots from like above, and it's like like I just did at the Beaver Gazebo. Like people probably won't get it, but I thought it was cool. But things like that, and those particular people, I feel like I like to like resemble their stuff, or like you were saying, like I don't like copy their stuff, but like it kind of just all gets mashed together.
Yes.
It kind of comes out that way.
Yes. It is really important, I think, when you're a creative to take in the artworks of your favorite and the greats.
Yeah.
And mesh it all into something. So you were talking about how like Jordan Peele makes you feel. And I feel like that is something that I'm constantly thinking about when I make something, is like, how is this going to make someone feel when they watch it? I think that's what's so powerful about art, is that it can just make you feel things. I mean, a lot of the world can make you feel things, but art makes you feel it in an unexpected way a lot of times. And that I like what you were saying a lot.
Yeah. And it's like special when you do that, and then someone like consumes that content or that art, and then you see it like come to life, and then like actually feel like the way that you intended someone to feel from looking at it. It like makes it worth creating it.
Yeah. No, it does.
Yeah.
It totally does.
Yeah. But you mentioned something that I wanted to talk about real quick to kind of wrap us up.
Yeah.
You mentioned like gatekeeping, and that's like really like the vision for this podcast too. Like is geared towards young people, and like a lot of times young people are looking for like some type of direction, or like they don't know what to do, and this isn't supposed to be like, this is how you do this is how to, and like here's 5 steps. It's more so like, this is how I've been doing it, this is how Bree's been doing it, and like maybe if you try these things, maybe it'll work for you too. Or like learn from our mistakes. But
yes,
you haven't watched any of these episodes yet.
No.
But I got a question that I've been asking everyone, and it's, what can someone do right now, an actionable step to become 1% better from like tomorrow, like, or today? Like what can they do today to become 1% better? And that's my goal for these podcasts. Like there's a million things that we talked about. If there's one thing that someone can do, what is it?
I think something that's been really big for me this year, and I feel is essential to being an entrepreneur and being successful and being happy and feeling balanced in your life, because entrepreneurship a lot of times is not about balance, especially in the beginning. But if you want to do it long term, I think I'm going to quote my girl Jenna from her podcast. And she always says, where the woo meets the work, which sounds really weird. But what I think she means is you can put countless hours into honing your craft, like we talked about. And you can become really good at it, and you can get all your ducks in a row, and you can figure out your finances. But if you don't have a firm understanding of yourself and what you want and the things that you value in life, then none of that is going to mean anything. You could be the most successful entrepreneur in the world, and you still might go home and you are not happy. So I feel like a lot of checking in to see where your happiness level is, thinking about who you are and what you like, and how you don't have to put a definition on it either. You're constantly evolving, and you should. And putting yourself in a box is only doing yourself an injustice. But just thinking, I don't know, learning a little bit about yourself each day. I think that's what it is. And just checking in, making sure that all the woo-woo stuff, all the mental work is being done at the same time as the work, so that they can come together and you can have the balance and the success.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bree. I appreciate you being on the podcast today. Go follow Bre Boeh. How do you spell that?
Yes. It's spelled Breboeh. Yeah, at Bre Boeh.
So not to get confused with Bre Boeh.
Yes. Yep.
Go follow her on Instagram. If you have any questions for her, she has an open invitation for you to DM her.
Please do.
No creepy guys. Just actual questions.
Yes,
but yeah, thank you so much, Bree. Bree is honestly one of the most talented and skilled people I know. Like, I seriously mean that, not just saying that because it's a podcast. So thank you again. Thank you for tuning into the Yen podcast. And if you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, follow, and we'll be back.